quick little live here just because obviously we could potentially be seeing change occurring. Short time frame change at that. Start with the NASDAQ here and kind of where we're at. So, yes, last week on Sunday we talked about kind of looking to see if the laggards would get caught up here and if this is just nothing more than a laggard flush and seeing if the market would rally from there. Now, the market obviously came to the low side of this balance range and tried to rally. That's as clear as day. Now it's looked above and is starting to fail again. So first and foremost with NQ, if NQ can get back inside this balance range, we should look below 14,800. If they can get any kind of traction within this balance range, we should be looking below 14,800. Whether that happens today or not, who knows? But that is what I would be looking for. If you look at how NQ's day time frame is, there was a short-term balance up here, which we tried to look back into and failed. So the failed attempt to get back into this little 5-day balance range has now pushed us back towards what is a broader balance range. So finding an aggressive seller today below kind of where we are right now and below yesterday would increase the dramatics of this move and the potential for it to push fairly quickly down to that 14,800 number. Now, when I'm looking at where my areas are, this level up here kind of played yesterday, but more importantly, I want to see what happens when we get down to here, right? 14820 to 14776. We talked about this last week, Sunday. That was your exact strong support. That's exactly what I want to see again. Is that strong money going to be sitting there waiting to buy somewhere in this range to bounce this market one more time? Or are we going to, get into there and sweep through? If we sweep through this level, we could really see some dramatic downside action and see if the market really wants to sell. Now, I think the biggest thing today for me in all the markets is I'm going to have to see volume increase. I'm going to have to see more volume selling the market than we have up until this point. But that is something I will most certainly be paying attention to on NQ. Looking over at RTY, right? RTY still in the balance range. Where's your ultimate target? We came back up. We got close to the balance area high. Didn't quite get up there. The next target, if they are to sell, is the central side of this. So just below the 2240, somewhere in the 2230 to 2220 area is where I would expect to see some sort of pause. If there's no pause in that 2230, 2220 area, look to see us come back down again below 2160 towards the low side of our balance range. Now, if this is a failed attempt at the upside balance, I would put odds favoring taking out these lows down here. I would think looking below this balance range more aggressively would start to pull up, significantly higher odds. As it stands right now, though, the first and only thing I'm worried about today is how we respond at 2230, 2220. If 2230, 2220 area holds, there's a very good chance we just come down here, find a new buyer, and then we push back up towards what is the upside of that balance range. So RTY is actually RTY and Dow are the least aggressive right now on the selling. Neither of them are looking to gap down at all. They're actually in pretty interesting areas as far as RTY is finding support kind of where the market found that last aggressive push to push the market higher in a fairly significant volume area. And likewise, it's coming down into what I would consider to be pretty strong support if they can hold it. Same idea with RTY. If they sweep this 2257, 2245 area, you have to think that the move can easily take us down to that 2180. And once we get into that range, the 2160 level, which is the low side of the daytime frame balance, is definitely the target for me. So I'll be monitoring this early, 2257, 2245, see if a buyer is going to step in, similar to what they did yesterday on the open. If they do step in, I would think, more chop and potentially building an inside day on RTY probably holds higher odds than a liquidation. Now, if RTY doesn't liquidate and the Dow doesn't liquidate, it's hard to think that the ES and NQ are going to go on their own and not have some sort of recovery rally here leading into what could be the open. Now, ES is by far the most interesting. Now, the reason ES is most interesting is we found our rally. We look back above the 50, look back above the 21. Now they're failing back below it again. So they were unable to find a buyer to push us back and above. Remember, we talked about last week, potentially seeing if there's going to be a seller somewhere in this range. Now, it's not exacting by any means, but nothing is. But the same idea as NQ. It came back into what was a small little 5-day balance range. It got failed, and it popped right back below. Now it's, potentially looking back into what was an inside day break to the upside and seeing if we can get traction back in there. If that happens, you could start to see what could potentially be somewhat of an H formation, which should bring you back down to that 4,200 area, which is still why I think there will be the most significant support on the downside for this move, at least if it is to take place. Now, looking at our day time frame profiles, bring this up over here. I kind of made this as simple as can be. We left off a lot of stuff just so you could see. Simply put, you had the liquidation, you had the gap lower out of what was a balance range, and then from there you just had value building higher, value building higher, value building higher, and then that one big push where it gave you a P-shaped profile of short covering that came back into this balance range and since has tried to stay and see if they could find a buyer. Now, first and foremost, I think this day is very important. We're going to potentially gap below it. But mostly important is you had 2 inside days to this day, which of course is short-term balance, and you should go with the break from that short-term balance. So for me, I'll be looking to go with the break. I think there's a potential for a firecracker effect here. If they start to get going, there's could be a lot of stops kind of grouped quite close to each other. Even with all that said, though, I'm not going to forget the fact that this is still a very unfinished high on this balance range, and we have a very unfinished high on our all-time high. So I'm not marrying a sell-off. If we do get volume, I do think 4,200 is easily a target where I think there could be strong support and potentially the area to reload for, the long into kind of the end of the year type action. So for me, that's what I'll be looking at today. I'll be looking to go with this. We're going to be gapping outside of what is inside day, outside of what is, short time frame balance. Always go with that. The gap today is, in my opinion, of value. But the gap, I think, should be played to in and around that 44.15 area, which is actually Friday's profile. I think yesterday's profile being inside to Friday's profile. Friday's high and low are actually the natural inside day. Yesterday was just, a continuation of what was happening on Friday, just in a tighter range. Now, one thing I had mentioned to some people about yesterday, kind of at the close, was I thought it was quite interesting that yesterday had multiple opportunities, really. C period had an opportunity, C period had an opportunity to really trend us higher and break back up towards the 78 to 70 area, which we talked about last Sunday. And likewise, J period had an opportunity on this rally to try and push us up and really start moving this market trend, which is usually what we've seen in this market, where the buyers, really just take control and start to push the market in their favor. That didn't happen yesterday. You had 2 shutdowns on that, gave you a really tight ranged, strong balance day, which we don't really see this type of balance anymore. It's kind of a thing of the past as far as getting multiple good, strong auctions in a balance day. So what I'll be looking at, for today is how we respond on this breakout. Are we going to sell from below here? Or are we going to, rally up, get above this 44.07 and then rally back towards the inside days? So that's where I'm at for the week or for today. As always, trade well, trade safe, trade your plan. I will